Welcome to the Lex Buds and Pick and Roll podcast. I'm one of your two co-hosts, Brandon.
And with you as always is Tyler.
Tyler, I got to say, this is a really interesting show. Just if you're looking at this on video, it's going to be one of the more interesting ones we do. So I am in a hotel lobby in Indianapolis, and Tyler, you are on injured reserve right now. Do you want to tell everybody what's going on?
No, not really. It's fairly embarrassing. So
I know that's how I wanted you to share it.
So last Sunday, a week ago today, I was carrying my daughter, my 5-year-old, down the stairs, which I do all the time. And
sounds routine.
Yeah, and somehow managed to slip and fall down the stairs. The 5-year-old landed on my right knee, which had bent backwards underneath my leg. And I proceeded to scream multiple F-bombs. So it was a good run of not dropping an F-bomb in front of my 5-year-old. 5 years. It was a great run. That streak has now officially ended. Thankfully, she's not repeated it yet. But yeah, I see somebody in orthopedics tomorrow to try to figure out what I have done to my knee. I'm still hobbling around. It is still extremely swollen. And I'm just old, man. We are getting old. We're falling downstairs now. What is happening to my youth?
Well, Tyler, this segues perfectly into our show today because we're going to have a Father's Day special here at the end of the episode where we talk about our favorite fictional dads and a couple things we wish we would have known before we both became dads. Some helpful information that would have been good. We are also going to talk about John Calipari, possibly to the NBA. Reed Shepherd gets a college offer in Kentucky.
Oh,
yeah. But we'll let you know what school it is.
Okay.
MAP test scores have dropped across Fayette County for students. There's a lot of stuff to cover, Tyler, including Costco samples possibly coming back, which is huge news. But there's a lot of things in between.
Yeah, that's a lead story right there in its own.
That is a lead story. But I have a pretty good feeling what your week has been like, Tyler. I think you've summarized it pretty well.
Yes, that it's been basically just me laying on the couch or in the bed with my leg propped up with the bag of ice sitting on it. I think I've watched more movies this week than I've watched in the last 5 years.
What's your favorite one you watched this week? You got any good pearls there that you found that?
I would say my favorite one that I watched was Win a Date with Tad Hamilton was probably the best one. No,
what a crappy week. Okay.
No, that was not. I did watch that one actually. But my favorite one is the movie Glass. Have you seen that one?
Not familiar with that one at all.
With it's kind of the trilogy of M. Night Shyamalan movies with Unbreakable and Split, and then now this one kind of completes that trilogy of the Bruce Willis Unbreakable character with Samuel L. Jackson playing Mr. Glass. I take it you have not seen any of these movies?
No.
Well, they're kind of nerdy. They're kind of comic book character-ish. Like it's all based on comic book characters. So it's kind of nerdy and dorky, but I'm also kind of nerdy and dorky. So I enjoyed it. I would recommend it if you have seen the other ones. If you've not, go watch Unbreakable first. And then go watch Glass. It was very good.
Oh, it's good to know. I mean, it's okay to explore your nerdy side, especially when you're just sitting around the house and can't do anything. Do you have one of those bells, like those bells that you ding when you need something at the house? It's like, I need a sandwich. Let me ding so my wife or my kids can go get me a ham sandwich. Do you do that yet?
I'm afraid with what my wife would do with that bell if I tried ringing the bell to tell her to bring me a sandwich.
Yeah, so just wait till she hears your 5-year-old use the words that you used when you actually fell down the steps. Then you're in big trouble.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm at least waiting till I find out what the injury is before I start trying to milk it. Like if I go to the doctor tomorrow and like, oh, it's just a bruise. And I'm like, well, crap. I've been laying around sulking for a week, and now I have no reason to. So I got to at least find out what the injury is before I start with the bells and the sandwich request.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, Tyler. Well, I think we just get right into it. And like I said, we are going to get into our Father's Day special segment of the show for the last segment. But to start out, I think it's only fair we start out with sports, Tyler. And there was a pretty interesting rumor that came out this week. You want to talk about that?
All right. Well, Brandon, 3 things in life are certain: death, taxes, and John Calipari NBA rumors. Within hours,
So true.
within hours of Yahoo Sports reporting that Calipari would be open to a return to the NBA, Coach Cal took to social media to shut them down. Brandon, was there ever any fire to this smoke?
I mean, I think there always is. To me, I've listened to, I listened to Kentucky Sports Radio this week, and they were debating how long he's going to stay and do this or that. Who really knows? If somebody comes out with the right amount of money and it's the right team with the right players, probably some old former UK players or something, then you can't put a timeline on that. It's just when it happens. And I think he would like to explore it and give it one more go, but he's only probably got another 5 years to really make that happen, to be able to devote the amount of energy it takes to coach an NBA team. But that's just my personal opinion. He'll probably get into some things outside of sports at some point. But, I think if the right situation comes along, he would go. This past season was not fun.
For anybody.
You know what I mean? And the state of the game's changing so much too. And we've talked about this on previous episodes. A whole new dynamic with the transfer portal, the name, image, likeness issue that's arising. I mean, there's a lot on the table. It's going to completely change things. And he's at the end of his tenure here. So does he really want to deal with all that change when he's getting ready to leave? Just a lot of stuff we don't know.
Yeah. If you think that Calipari isn't at least listening to the offers from the NBA, I think you're naive to think that he's not taking those calls when he gets them. He when he goes on social media, he makes it sound like these are just made up stories from other college coaches who are trying to hurt his recruiting, which, I'm sure those other coaches do tell recruits like, hey, this guy's talking to the NBA every year. But I mean, he makes it sound like this is all just absurd that would even think that he's talking to the NBA. I mean, let's be real. If an NBA team calls, you'd be crazy not to listen and at least hear what the offer is. I mean, I don't care how loyal you are to your job. If somebody calls you offering you a multi-million-dollar contract, you're going to at least listen to it. So I 100% think there surely were some teams, maybe multiple teams, that reached out to Cal with the offer. Maybe he did quickly shut them down, which it seems like he did. But
that was going to be one of my other questions, Tyler. Do you think he's actually getting the calls, or do you think that it's his agent putting out, Calipari's getting calls from the NBA? Because I don't think he's as appealing as a hire as he was 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, if you were the owner of an NBA franchise, would you not, at least if you're making your list of potential coaches, you're telling me John Calipari wouldn't be on the list?
I don't know, because if you look at some of the recent hires, you've got Steve Kerr, who's at Golden State. He's a very calm, has a very calm demeanor. You have Brad Stevens, very calm. You have Steve Nash, very, you know what I mean? Those are the kind of coaches that players like now. They want people that aren't going to hassle them. These guys are making $200 million a year. They don't want somebody on the sidelines like John Calipari yelling, go, go. You know what I mean? I think there's a new breed of coach in the NBA, and it's one that gets the heck out of the way, doesn't hassle the players, and just manages the team. Now, Calipari can manage a team, but he does it with some swag, which includes some of the words that you used when you injured yourself this past week, Tyler. And I just don't think players are going to be into that anymore. I think that has a lot to do with it too. There's a new breed of coach in the NBA, and it ain't Calipari.
All right, very, very, very fair argument. I hear you, and I don't know. I feel like he's just getting some calls from some people. I feel like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
It would be the first time if that was the case.
No, certainly not.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of college basketball, Tyler, we spent a lot of time this past season talking about Reed Shepherd, the rising junior out of Laurel County, which is really exciting, right? An in-state kid, Jeff Shepherd's son. He was going to be the savior when he comes in, right? Because we just won 9 games this past season, not a lot. So we were looking at a lot towards the future, and Reed Shepherd's name keeps coming up. He's rising in the rankings, and he received an offer earlier this week from Kentucky schools. And I mean, the University of Louisville has extended an offer to Reed Shepherd. University of Kentucky has not yet offered him, but they've been in contact. Tyler, what do you think that says about the prioritization of somebody that the entire Big Blue Nation was hoping would get an offer sooner rather than later?
Well, this has become very, very interesting because U of L, obviously our nemesis, our biggest rival, on the first day that coaches were allowed to even talk to the guys from the 2023 class, that was this past week. It was the first day that they were allowed to openly communicate with them. Louisville goes ahead and offers a scholarship on the first day. And I think that has now put a lot of pressure on Calipari and his staff to come up with an offer sooner rather than later. I mean, they have hosted Reed Sheppard. His first campus visit was to U of L. Now, you may say that doesn't mean anything, but I mean, U of L got the first visit. They've made the offer before Kentucky. There are other schools that have offered: Iowa, Texas A&M, Arizona State. I think maybe Virginia has already thrown an offer in. Yeah, we have reached out. I don't want to hear about reaching out. I want to hear about us offering a scholarship to Reed Sheppard. Okay, the only reaching out I want to hear about is Coach Cal reaching out to hand Reed a pen to sign his scholarship papers. That's the only reaching out I want to hear. And I'm getting worried already. It's making me nervous that we're going to miss out on this kid because we're going to screw around and wait too long.
Now, let me ask you this to clarify. Do you want Reed Sheppard because you think he's going to be a great player? Do you want him because he's Sheppard's son? Or do you want him because he's a Kentucky kid?
All of the above.
So you think he's that good? Because when I'm looking at it, if I'm playing devil's advocate here, which I love to do, Calipari may be looking at this and saying, you know what, I've got Coach O, I've got Chin in my recruiting back now. I've got guys that I'm recruiting that are in the top 10. Reed Sheppard would be nice. He's a top 50 player. I would rather have 5 guys that are in the top 20 like we used to get versus getting somebody in the 40s and 50s, which we've been going for here lately. Do you think it has anything to do with the shift in who they're going after? Because it's been very apparent that they're going after the top guys again, which why we took a break from that, I have no idea, and I'll hold a grudge on that for a long time. But could there be some truth to that, Tyler? Would you trade the top 10 players for a top 40 to 50 player?
Why can't we do both? Why can't we? I mean, I think you and I have even said on this show, the key to building this program is getting a mixture of the elite guys with a mixture of guys who are going to stay 2 or 3 years, which are the 40 to 50 range guys, which is right where Reed Sheppard is. So why
but do you think that's true?
Do
you think that's true anymore with the transfer portal? Because your guys that are sticking around 2 or 3 years probably not going to do it as much anymore. They're going to transfer if they're not happy after 2 years. And you're going to get a transfer in that has 2 years of experience, 3 years of experience. Do you need that player anymore?
Well, I would normally agree with you, but I think the exception to that rule are homegrown Kentucky kids who have that connection to the program, who have been Kentucky fans their entire lives. I mean, you look at guys that have stayed 3-4 years since Calipari came, and I mean it's mostly Kentucky guys: Dominique Hawkins, Derek Willis, Darius Miller. We see those guys who are in state who typically come in and stay, and I feel like Reed Sheppard is one of those guys. He's not going to be a one and done. I mean, unless something amazing happens and his improvement just skyrockets, but he's going to be a 2-3 year, maybe even a 4-year player. Who knows? And I think it's not unrealistic to think that he could spend every single one of those years at Kentucky, which you would much rather have that than bring in a transfer who's only going to be here for 1 year versus a guy who could know the ins and outs of the program for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think the other thing that Reed Sheppard is going to have to look out for is, again, if we're improving our recruiting, is he going to be recruited over every year that he's here? So there could be an element to that of him saying, you know what, things may be getting back to the glory days where we were getting Wall, Cousins, Bledsoe, MKG, Anthony Davis, Carl Towns, Devin Booker, about 15 other one-and-done players. He may look at that and say, you know what, if that's who they're going after now, I may never get a chance. You know what I mean? So there's another side to it. I'm interested to see how this whole thing plays out, but we'll see.
Yep. It has definitely been made much more interesting with this U of L offer. I will tell you, if he ends up going to Louisville, there are going to be some angry fans. All right, Brandon, our last sports topic. 3 things in life are certain, Brandon: death, taxes, and parents acting like fools at youth sporting events. Now, I'm sure by now everyone has seen the viral video of the T-ball game in Stanton, Kentucky, which I believe is Powell County. Is that right?
Yep, that is Powell County.
The game came to an abrupt end when more than a dozen parents got into an altercation on the field. Why does this keep happening, and is there anything that we can do about it?
Well, first of all, everybody's angry about everything these days, right? So why not carry it over to T-ball? It teaches your kids at a young age to be divisive and fight about things. That way they'll be ready for their first Facebook profile in a few years. So, I mean, it makes sense to me. No, I'm not surprised that this happened. It probably happens everywhere. And it's just something that'll never stop. I remember I was playing a game in middle school one time. I was watching either a JV or a varsity game or something, and there was a fight in the stands. Tyler, I don't know if you were called it. Geez, I can't remember. I think you were maybe at this game. I don't know.
I was sitting right behind the 2 parents fighting, literally the row behind them when it started.
Okay. So, and then in high school, we had the game where we traveled to Millard. Do you remember Millard?
Oh, Millard. Is that the one where they had the chicken wire around the balcony?
No, that was a different one.
Okay.
That was Feds Creek.
Feds Creek, that's it. Yeah.
I don't know if you were at the game at Millard High School, because I can't remember what year this was, but I do recall that they had to stop the game because of fighting with players and with fans, and we got escorted out the back door and shuttled into the bus immediately. So, I mean, this is something that's gone on for years. I don't think it's a new epidemic among sports. It's been going on for a long time.
It has, but it's T-ball. Like, I remember these things happening at high school games, and let's face it, high school games, there's much more at stake in those. But
is there? Like what?
Well, I mean, you're competing for district titles, regional titles. You're competing for scholarships.
T-ball, you are competing for that Gatorade and for a cookie at the end of the game, Tom.
That's exactly. You're competing to get to go out for ice cream after the game. Like, I disagree with you. I mean, I know this has been happening on some extent, but I feel like this has gotten so much worse. And as someone who has 2 kids who are about to enter the kind of youth sports, my daughter actually just had her first soccer season in the 4-year-old league. I mean, I can already see these parents that are, I didn't see anything like this, but could already see the parents on the other teams who took it too seriously. That, I mean, just let the kids have fun. It's T-ball. They're 5 years old. Do we even need to keep score? Like, this was a championship T-ball game. I don't even remember keeping score in T-ball, and now we have championship games, and it's no wonder we see this stuff happening. Fans throwing stuff at NBA players, fans running out onto the court at NBA. It's no wonder we see this stuff, because it's happening at T-ball games. It just blows my mind.
Tyler, just get you some brass knuckles. That's all I know. Carry them with you in your pocket for these games. It's going to get intense.
Gosh, I dread it, man. I really do.
Yeah, it is kind of, when you look at it overall, it is kind of nutty. But, oh, well, what are you going to do? Before we move on to our news segment, Tyler, I do want to remind everybody to follow us on social media. Your post on Twitter today, Tyler, was epic. Follow us at LexBuds on Twitter. Your post about Father's Day and with De'Aaron Fox and Lonzo Ball is one of the best things I think that's been produced on Twitter in a long time. And I greatly appreciate that going up today. So make sure you check us out on that. On YouTube, just search LexBuds, and on Facebook, LexBuds and Pick and Roll. And of course, you can find our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just search the word LexBuds and give us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it.
Yes. Everything that Brandon just said, I agree.
Well, thanks, Tyler, for helping me out there. So we are going to segue into our news segment, Tyler. A judge in Lexington will allow a group of gamblers to sue Keeneland and the Red Mile Racetrack over losses on slot-like historical horse racing machines that the Kentucky Supreme Court found were illegal at the time that they lost the money. And now that the historical horse racing machines are back in business, these people want to recoup the money that they lost when they were considered illegal. There's a lawsuit going back and forth here, and the judge has said that this needs to go to trial, while Keeneland and Red Mile were hoping to have it dismissed. Tyler, do you think they have legal standing to ask for money that they lost with illegal machines?
On the surface, this sounds crazy. Like that, you knew what you were doing when you were gambling. You knew you were probably going to lose your money putting money into a slot machine. All right, to me, on the surface, it seems ridiculous to be able to ask for that money back. But the fact to me that it is the horse racing industry, and they have basically been able to get a monopoly on gambling in this state. You know what? Forget the horse racing industry and the uppity horse that they rode in on. I absolutely think these guys get their money back. Stick it to the man. I hope these guys get every penny back that they lost.
So your argument is not on any kind of legal standing. It's on pure emotion. You would be the worst juror of all time. Attorneys probably are scared to death to see you come in for jury duty. You are on a blacklist from here on out.
I probably will. I've just excused myself from all jury duty going forward. Yep.
Good work, man. That's impressive. I kind of feel like if it was illegal and they were taking the money illegally, which is what this is basically saying, they were collecting money illegally, then I think you got to give it back.
Well, what about if you won money? If you won money illegally, do you have to give that back?
Well, here's the thing. The only people that are going to step forward are the ones that lost the money, right? So those are the only ones you have to worry about. And the other thing is, they've said that they could look back as long as 5 years if there appears to be a class action lawsuit. So it kind of opens the floodgates. These people are a small group, but other people that lost money during that period when they were deemed illegal, it could be a big problem. And they may have to pony up the dough.
Oh, you were sitting on that one, weren't you?
Oh boy, yeah.
You were waiting.
Yeah, I had to rein that one in.
All right, moving on.
They weren't acting very neighborly. No.
Oh my goodness!
But that was my main point. Enough horsing around.
Oh. Well, this has been a great show, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, no problem.
Are you sure?
Stop horsing around. Come
on. Okay. All right, Brandon. The University of Kentucky will be one of 90 sites across the country to take part in a clinical trial to test the COVID vaccine in children. The study will test children as young as 6 months old up to age 11. And at least 200 kids are needed for UK's part in this trial. I think this poses a very interesting question that I want your opinion on. As a parent, would you volunteer your kids to take part in a COVID vaccine clinical trial?
There's two parts to this. First of all, I would ask them if they wanted to do it. I would tell them that mommy and daddy did it. And if they want to, that's fine. But I would also be a little bit leery because I don't know if you've seen this, Tyler. The CDC is holding an emergency meeting to discuss the issue of heart inflammation amongst the younger population. There is a big pattern here. If you recall, when everybody was freaking out about the blood clots with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, that was 7 people. Okay. The heart inflammation is hundreds of people that are younger. That gives me a little bit of a red flag, to be honest with you. And the fact that the CDC, who wants this to go well, they want this to go swimmingly. They have decided to publicly announce an emergency meeting, means that they had information that was so bad that they had to say, okay, we're going to have to look at this, because they don't want to have to do that. They want everybody to get vaccinated. So there's some underlying concerns there. So I would first ask my kids if they would want to or not do it. And then at that point, I would do my own investigation to see where this is going. But I'm holding off right now until they figure out what the heck's going on. There's something going on. I just want to know what it is.
No, I honestly, I think any answer to this question is fair. Whether you talk to your kids, whether you say, no, I'm not letting my kids, or yes, I mean, obviously we need kids for this trial, or else we don't find out how effective it is. I mean, just as a society, if we want to get everyone vaccinated, I mean, we have to test it. I mean, so we need this. We need kids. But as a parent, I think it's kind of, everybody thinks, oh well, I'll let somebody else's kid do it. Like I'm not gonna volunteer my kid. But if everybody feels that way, then we end up not having enough. So I think it's a very interesting situation.
What are you doing? What would you do?
I think if I wouldn't if my kid was 6 months old. I mean, there's something about I mean, a kid not even knowing what they're going in for,
Mm-hmm.
and just being that young. I don't think I would do it with a 6-month-old. But I think once they're a little bit older, I would have no problem with having my kids take part in it. I mean,
what if they said no?
Oh man.
I mean, this is the scenario, right? Because the other thing is, and we've been told this since day one, is that kids, even if they do get it, it doesn't really do a whole lot. You're talking about the odds of getting struck by lightning with something fatal happening to a child with it. I mean, the odds are so slim to begin with. Do you introduce something that is actually more of odds of happening than them getting the virus and getting super sick? You know what I mean? It's if that population isn't as impacted, do you take the risk?
But I mean, at some point in their lives, they're going to be old enough where they're at risk. So, I mean, just like we get most of our vaccines now when we're first born. They have a list of vaccines that they give to your newborn. So, I mean, in that regard, I would rather them have it now so that they're already protected against it, and then don't later on down the line get it. So,
but could you also say that you would wait till they get older when you're past the age to where we're having this little hiccup? I guess would be a nice way to say it. There's some kind of hiccup right now with younger people getting this vaccine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a balancing. There's not really a good answer.
I know. And like I said, I would not have a problem with anybody answering this on either side, that they are, yes, I would do it, or if they're, heck no, I'm not doing it. I completely get it, but I think I would rather have my child get it now so that they can go ahead and get that protection against it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I honestly don't know what I would do, to be honest. I was just trying to kind of give out some arguments, but it's a tricky discussion. People get upset about it. And this is what starts fights at T-ball games, Tyler, these kind of discussions. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's really what they were arguing about.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the kids, Tyler, this one's pretty short and sweet on this introduction. It's no surprise to anyone that MAP scores, which are the standardized testing scores used to evaluate student progress, reading, and math, dropped quite a bit in Fayette County over the last year. Of course, this was during the distance learning period, and school officials have said that they will make that up. But fact is that scores are down, which we did anticipate would happen. Tyler, are your overall thoughts on these results? Do you think it could be made up? And what would you do if this situation arose again?
Well, I think you already hit the nail on the head, which is this is what we expected. This is not a surprise. We have talked about on this show, there have been multiple articles and news segments done on the impact that this is going to have on kids learning, especially at the elementary age. And what we saw on these MAP scores that Fayette County released is that the biggest impact was from 1st through 5th grade, through those elementary school ages. There was not a big a drop off in the middle school students and the high school students. And I think that probably the reason for that is, you can become more of a self-learner at that age. You don't need as much of the teacher-led instruction at that age as you do in elementary. So I think it's not surprising at all that elementary was most affected. But I think we need to look at the positive, which is, let's look at the things that these kids learned during this Zoom instruction. I mean,
it shouldn't take long. Go ahead.
They learned how to change their Zoom background. They learned how to change their name to something inappropriate on the Zoom meeting. I mean, let's look at all these very helpful things that they learned during Zoom instruction.
This is very true, Tyler. I mean, this you've right. Sometimes stuff is so true it makes you laugh and cry at the same time. Oh, jeez. This is tricky, man. I'm not going to rehash what we've talked about for probably 10 or 15 episodes on the show. But if this arose again, I hope that this does show that you can't take a year off school. And you can't make it up. There's not a way to make it up. That they're going to be behind a little bit and it'll take some time to get there. The truth is they would be in a better position if they hadn't missed so much school. I'm disappointed that we didn't start back school when it should have opened normally, because every ounce of data that ever came out, even out of Lord Fauci's mouth, whether you believe he's like the Christ or the Antichrist, everything that came out of his mouth and everything from the CDC said that kids are at low risk and there's no it's not showing any spread in schools. Yet we closed all the schools. It blows my mind. And like I said, follow the science unless it says something you don't like, and then you don't follow it. And then you start following it again whenever it just blows my mind, man. Can't believe it. It really upsets me. I'm not going to talk about it again. It just really ticks me off. But, I think if this were to happen again, let's say there's another outbreak of this again next year, I hope that they realize how big of an impact that in-person teaching has. And I think in-person teaching is an essential job.
I think this has definitely proved that. And I think it has showed the importance of classroom teachers and having high quality classroom teachers. It also should show how much teachers need to be paid more than what they make. But that's a rant for another day.
Maybe we'll put that on the next episode, Tyler. I'm looking forward to that one.
All right. Brandon, the White House launched a series of videos Monday to highlight crumbling infrastructure across the country. Can you guess which area of the country was chosen to be highlighted first? I'll give you two guesses, but you will probably only need one.
I would say either Mitch McConnell or Joe Manchin. Well, neighboring senators.
You are correct in that it is Mitch McConnell's home state, but the focus was on Eastern Kentucky, which, like anybody who wants to point out how poor something is, they always go to Eastern Kentucky.
Love it.
But this comes at a time when Republicans and Democrats are in a logjam coming up with an agreement on how much money to allocate to President Biden's infrastructure plan for fixing roads, fixing bridges, getting access to clean drinking water. Brandon, is this purely a coincidence and has nothing to do with Eastern Kentucky being the home state of the main opposition to Biden, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell?
There's a couple of things. Obviously, they're trying to really stick it to McConnell, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, that's what they should do. But I would just be very careful if I were other senators in other states piling on, because those in glass houses should not throw stones because there are bad areas that need repairs in everybody's state, and those videos could be made to look just as bad in any other state. There's just a connotation with Eastern Kentucky. I remember, it's pretty funny, I think within the first 6 months of the Trump administration, they had Infrastructure Week. I don't know if you remember this or not. They were going to have a new topic every week and they were going to dedicate time to it. I remember Infrastructure Week was 6 months in or 9 months in. Yeah. And the running joke was 3 years into the presidency, hey, are we still in Infrastructure Week? You know what I mean? He had an opportunity to do something, didn't do it. Biden's got an opportunity to do something, whether he doesn't or not, I don't know. Something's got to happen at some point. Somebody's got to pull the trigger and spend all this money. I thought it would be easy to do it this time, but it's not the case. I mean, we need it everywhere. I'm surprised that we don't have high-speed rail. Blows my mind. If you look at videos of, Japan and China, I mean, it's ridiculous. The facilities and their transportation just blows everything we have out of the water.
That's true. They look like they're not even on the same planet as us as far as our infrastructure goes.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I get that you don't want to spend the money. I know we live in a conservative state, Tyler. I know you don't want to spend the money, but you have to spend it at some point in your life. You know what I mean? At some point in our lifetime, we have to spend the money.
Yeah. To me, this is something that I feel like, for the most part, regardless of party, Republican or Democrat, everyone agrees that our infrastructure sucks, that our roads and bridges are falling apart. I mean, I
I'm brand
remember,
on that.
yeah. I mean, it was like 20 years ago when that bridge collapse. Was it in Minnesota, I think, and like all these people died, and it became a big thing 20 years ago about, well, we've got to revamp our highways and our infrastructure, and here we are 20 years later after that, and nothing really has happened. And this is something that most people agree on. It's no wonder nothing in Washington gets done, because we can't even agree on something as simple as, hey, we need to fix our highways, we need to fix our roads. And part of the problem is both Republicans and Democrats are trying to do it now. Those always want to try to squeeze in their little extra side projects on these things. And then it ends up getting everything held up. Like, let's just all come to an agreement. We need to fix this. We need to fix it now. Quit jerking around. Quit playing these games. And let's get this fixed before.
And you know what? Something to think about too, because the fact of the matter is that, they call them port barrel politics or whatever.
Yep.
Is, people get their special projects. You know what? If you want to get something done, why don't you go to each state and say, give me your top 10 projects. We'll do all 10 of those. Okay, now let's do something on a national level like high-speed rail. But you give me your list of 10 projects, we'll crank them out. You know what I mean? Everybody gets a fair shake at it. Everybody gets something. You're going to have to do something or people aren't going to vote for it. People have to be able to come back and say, hey, I got you this bridge. I got you 5 lanes on I-75 now. Whoa, check me out. They have to have something to go back and tell their people. So,
yeah, I agree.
But
you should run for office, Brandon.
No, I wouldn't. That wouldn't last 2 seconds. So. But anyway, so a really interesting study came out that shows that media consumers may be reaching their limit on the number of streaming services. There is a growing list of media streaming options, and the magic number for consumers, according to this study, is 7. 7 is the breaking point where people say, okay, I've had enough. I'll stick with my 7. Tyler, how many do you have? And is this any better than just what we had with cable and satellite?
I don't have 7. I mean, is this normal? First of all, do most people really have 7 streaming services? That seems like an awful lot to me. Okay, let me go through the ones I have. So my TV is streaming. I use YouTube TV, so I guess obviously that counts.
YouTube TV
is one. Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus. So I have 4. So and to me that seems like I can't even watch all the content on those 4 things. How many do you have? Are you closer to 7?
Well,
and how on earth do people keep up with this many?
I've got Netflix, Amazon Prime. I have Peacock for The Office. Got to have that. And that's really important. I got Disney Plus. And then I've got HBO Max. That's 5. So yeah, I've got 5.
Okay, so we're both under this limit of 7. I was blown away that.
Oh, and Apple TV Plus, that's 6.
Oh yeah, there you go. Okay. And we talked about this maybe an episode ago or maybe 2 episodes ago, that the quantity of movies and TV shows is going up, but the quality really seems to be going down. I mean, there is a lot of garbage shows on a lot of these streaming networks, and it seems like the whole goal is just to continue cranking out more offerings so that people continue to subscribe. But I mean, to me, it's no wonder people are reaching their limit, because to me, we're not getting quality stuff out of these. We're getting more and more, but most of it I don't think is any good. And I'm just waiting for the one company, probably Disney, to come along and buy out all the other ones so that we can get everything on one device, one password, and everything is right there. And then, like I said, we're right back to where we were with cable, where everything was all bundled in one package, and we're starting all over again.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds a lot like cable, except streaming. So I don't know what the answer is, to be honest. The prices are ridiculous. And you know what? If it wasn't for sports, I wouldn't even hardly watch regular TV. I have Dish Network as well. If it weren't for sports, I wouldn't keep that. And I'm considering getting rid of it for YouTube TV, which would be my 7th streaming service. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just another pawn in their game, and they're going to collect their money.
That's true. But you'll be right at the average though of 7. So you'll be right at the average consumer there.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know.
All right. Our last, or no, sorry, not our last, our next to last news story. Brandon, there were many people who said the pandemic would not be over until Costco started giving away samples again. Well, if that is the bar, it looks like we will be back to normal this month, as Costco has revealed it will bring back full samplings as well as its food court and seating. All locations will return to these samples by the end of June, the end of this month. How excited are you to have free samples coming back to Costco?
Tyler, this is great. It's like it's like our date night. We take the whole family out. We go through, we do a couple laps around Costco. We're stuffed. We feed the kids, we feed ourselves. You get kind of a sampler platter. It's a beautiful thing. I love the samples, and they're always so nice when you go in there. The lady will have it like a cracker with some kind of special peanut butter on it. It's like, hey, it's right here if you want to buy it. And I'm like, well, why would I want to buy it? You're giving it to me for free.
Why buy the cow, right?
Why buy the cow when the milk's free? So, I don't know. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about the food court too, because to me, one of my favorite things is going through Costco. You have to spend a minimum of $100 anytime you go into Costco. You know that, right? Yep. By the time you buy 50-pound jars of pickles and like a ton of ketchup, it's $100. And then when you go out, they have the concession stand sitting right there when you go out. And that big greasy pizza is sitting there on those plates. And you can just sit down at those little metal picnic table kind of bench seating areas and just eat your big greasy pizza after you've accomplished spending $100. It's a great thing. I'm excited about it.
I'm excited, but at the same time, after the last year that we've just went through, I don't know. I'm a little worried. I don't know if I've just become more of a germaphobe, but the idea of people now handing me food and handing me samples, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it now.
I would just wait till they start handing out those beef jerky samples and those cheese crackers.
That's true.
You're going to fall right in line, man.
Yeah, that's probably true. As soon as I see a sample of something that looks good, all that will go out the window, and I'll be like, what? Germs? What are those?
Pretty much. You can buy like a gallon of hand sanitizer from Costco if you're worried about it.
That's
you
true.
know what I mean? Just pack that with you in your car. I'm excited about it, though. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But anyway, Tyler, moving on to our last topic in our news segment. There is a growing concern. Tyler, I'm sure you've probably seen this. There's been a lot of news about it. There's some people heading back into the office for work, but there's a lot of other people choosing to stay home and not look for employment at all, as people are quitting their jobs or just choosing to stay unemployed in general. And some folks think that could be due to the fact that the unemployment benefits have been elevated over the last several months as part of the COVID relief packages. Tyler, what are your thoughts on why this is happening? And do you give any validity to people saying, well, if they get too much in a government check, why would they go back to work?
Yeah, well, it is crazy how, around this time last year, everybody was so thankful to even have a job. I mean, everybody was like, oh man, I feel so lucky, to even have a job. People weren't even thinking about quitting. Mm-hmm. And now we're seeing people leave their jobs at a rate that we have not seen in 20 years since like the Great Recession. Mm-hmm. And it's just fascinating to me how the culture and the mindset has changed so quickly. And employers are going to have to respond to this. And we're already seeing a lot of employers respond to this by raising their wages. I think people are not going to want to work for places that don't offer that flexibility of being able to work from home or to work remotely. I think people have seen the benefits of it. And I think companies are going to have to adapt to this, or it's going to continue to be a problem. It also shows how much the work office and the work environment sucks, that as we're coming out of a pandemic, people who are not guaranteed another job if they leave their current one by any means are just like, forget it. It's not worth it. I mean, that is a sad statement on what American work offices have become.
Yeah, I think the days of having gigantic office buildings downtown where everybody comes into work need to go out the window. And I wonder what's going to happen to those office buildings. It's just not needed. And I think a lot of employers, like you said, kind of got to experiment over this last year about how efficient they could be by having people work from home. So I do think there's something to the fact that, there's an extra $300 per week that people can get in unemployment above and beyond what they would normally get, which is, $800 a week times 4 weeks in a month. That's $3,200. That's a lot of money. I mean, straight up, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can live off that.
You could live really well off that. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a lot of money. So I do think that has to be taken into consideration as well. But the whole going into the office thing, fighting the rat race, fighting traffic to go in, driving 30 to 45 minutes to travel 5 miles to your office and park in a big parking garage where you're fighting for spaces with everybody else. And then when you get out, traffic's bad again. I just don't think you need that anymore, man. It's not needed.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's, as somebody who works at a place where parking is an issue and you have to, like, I usually have to get to work 30 minutes before my shift starts, just try and find a parking space. And now just sit in my car for half an hour with nothing to do. I mean, just think about all the time that is wasted. And people just don't want to do it anymore. They've realized it's not the only option. There are other ways and better ways to do it. So I think that it will end up being one of the good things that has come out of this last year, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler, that's a very interesting way to end our news segment. As a reminder, follow us on social media on Twitter at LexBuds. If for nothing else, to see Tyler's latest tweet that came out on Father's Day, celebrating one of the greatest fathers of all time, as far as I'm concerned, De'Aaron Fox, and you can see what he was referring to in that tweet. But follow us on there, LexBuds and Pick and Roll on Facebook, LexBuds on YouTubes, and we're on the Instagrams as well, Tyler.
Yes, we are. And I posted a question on social media earlier today that is going to be one of our 2 topics for segment 3. So you get 2 for the price of 1 today for segment 3. In honor of Father's Day, we're going to go through 2 Dad Father's Day topics. And topic number 1 is, who are your favorite fictional dads? And topic number 2, what do you wish you had known about being a dad before you became one? Brandon, I will let you decide which one do you want to do first.
I say we go fictional dads first.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of curious to hear your take on this, because there's a lot of different avenues we could look at. We could look at TVs, we could look at movies, books. I mean, we could look at a lot of different things. Commercials, for Pete's sake. We could do whatever you want. But I'm curious to hear your first pick for fictional dads, and let's just go back and forth, and we'll each pick 2. But you go first.
All right. I'm very interested to know who the fictional commercial dad would be. I'm drawing a blank on that one.
Must be a heck of a dad to grab you in 30 seconds. Be like, God, I wish I was like that.
Yeah, kudos to that, whoever came up with that ad. All right,
yeah, but who's your favorite fictional dad?
All right, well, you have made a huge mistake letting me go first, because I have the best answer for this question. So I think what we need to do, we will put these up for a vote after we make our picks. Let people decide who picked the best dads. Let me also say, this is our favorite dad. This is not necessarily who we would want to actually be a dad. These are just our favorites, right? Is that how you're going with this?
Yeah, this is just our favorite, not the best. No, definitely not the best.
Okay, but I'm going with my favorite, who also is the best. So I am batting 100 on this one. The best dad, TV, movie, whatever you want, is Rick M. Effin Grimes from The Walking Dead. You tell me a dad who did any more for their son, for their family, than Rick Grimes. I mean, he fought through a zombie apocalypse through downtown Atlanta on a horse.
Coral.
To find his son and his wife. He kept Coral safe all those years. When Carl was an idiot. He was always running out and doing things he wasn't supposed to do. Like everybody be looking around like, "Where's Carl? Where'd Carl go?" Like, "Oh, he's out in the barn. What's he doing?" Like, "Get in the house, Carl. What are you doing?" Despite Carl's idiocracy, Rick managed to keep him safe and then managed to keep a newborn baby alive in the zombie apocalypse. That is a heck of a dad to me. I mean, he did things. You look at some of the things he did to stay alive. That's a dad I want. That's who I want keeping me safe when things start to go down. So I'm on Rick Grimes, number one dad.
Okay. This one is kind of interesting, Tyler, because my number one dad also was the father of a Carlton. See what I did there? And that's none other than Philip Banks from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I think I've talked about this on a previous episode.
Yeah, we did.
Think about this. His history in one of the episodes, he grew up working hard, very poor. He makes it all the way to Bel-Air, becomes a lawyer, a judge. He takes in a kid from West Philadelphia who was born and raised there and on the playgrounds where he spent most of his days. He took him in and raised him as if he were his own and showed him how to be successful. And look how he turned out. You know, he went from a boy to a man. I think it's a great story.
It is.
Working hard. And to beat it all, I don't know if you remember the episode where he was a pool hustler, Tyler.
Oh, I love that episode. Yes.
I mean, that added a layer to the onion that is just unbelievable. You know, you think he's this uptight guy and he goes in and he gets all of Will's money back, rolls up his sleeve, gets his own pool cue out.
Yeah, he's got his own pool stick. Yeah.
He eats a sandwich while he's playing pool. He just takes all the money. To me, he mixes the good life lessons with taking a chance on a kid, raising them right, while also secretly behind closed doors being a total badass. I think it's the perfect combination.
Yeah, if we're looking at that, you know, just the sitcom dads, I think he's definitely one of the best, if not the best. Because like I said, he combines the life lessons life lessons of like a Danny Tanner, but he's also, you know, you have too much cheesiness with Danny Tanner. You know, like Philip was he was just a real guy. I feel like you could have real conversations with him. So I think that's a good pick. Not as good as Rick Grimes, but I will give you that one as a good pick.
Well, and the other half of it too, you mentioned the Danny Tanner comparison. Danny Tanner was always too nice. Philip Banks had that fear factor that you want to have a little bit with the dad, right? Like when he yelled, you were like, "Oh my dear Lord, I screwed up royally. This is not going to be good."
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So he combined it all. It was a great mix.
Yes, you 100% want your kids to be just a little bit afraid of you. So he definitely
just enough.
That.
Just enough. Now, Tyler, if we're doing the snake draft here, should I do the next one and then give you the fourth one?
Yes, I will let you go next, sir.
Okay. So on this one, Tyler, this by no means is the best fictional dad. It's not even close. It's actually probably one of the worst fictional dads.
I think I know where you're going with this.
In terms of performance. But for entertainment value, there is no one better than Al Bundy.
I knew it. I knew that's where you were going.
I absolutely loved when I was growing up, Tyler. I absolutely loved watching. I was 8, 9 years old watching those shows, and I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. Because he's absolutely miserable in his life, yet he still sticks around when he could easily walk out the door. Everything he does sucks. His kids are idiots. His wife gets on his nerves. He's a women's shoe salesman in the mall that he absolutely hates doing. And he has any chance he wants to just to turn that little knob on their wooden door and walk out. And you know where he sits? Right there on the couch.
With his hand in his pants.
In a beer. That's right. I mean, that just says it all. He's a guy that is down in the dumps, but he always sticks it out. You know, he sticks in there and hangs around. And he's funny as hell. So I got to give it to him.
That's true. I mean, you know, you can mock Al Bundy's parenting all you want and his, you know, family man all you want, but he stuck out with a job that stunk. I mean, he didn't have to do that, but he did it for his family. He is a true family man, I think. Yeah,
that's how I would explain him. If I had 4 words, a true family man, that's how I would describe him.
Yeah, I made a list of 5 people, and Al Bundy was on my 5. All right, so now I've got to decide who I want to go with my second one. All right, I'm going to go with one that I'm actually shocked that you did not pick.
Oh, maybe I just missed it, Tyler.
I really thought that you would end up going this route. This is from a movie, and it is also a character very, very similar to Rick Grimes, who had to overcome a lot to find his kid. I'm talking about none other than Cameron Poe from the film Con Air, who overcame a plane of felons to get to his daughter, who he had never met before because his wife was pregnant when he got arrested. Somehow managed to get through all of these serial killers. That's who I want as a dad. I want somebody who can take down Cyrus the Virus and bring me a stuffed bunny when he meets me for the first time. But put the bunny back in the box.
I was going to say, I mean,
and he comes bearing gifts. I mean, how thoughtful is that? You're on a plane full of criminals and you still remember to go back and get the stuffed bunny for your daughter. That's not only a tough dad, but a dad who cares. Cameron Poe, Rick Grimes. That is the ultimate dad badass combination. I can't wait to put this out to a vote.
Oh my God. I don't even know what to say to you right now, man. I don't know. First of all, worst Southern accent in the history of filmmaking. Can we agree on that?
Yes, agreed, 100%.
Okay. But that doesn't matter for the reasons you just mentioned. Why couldn't you just put the button back in the box? I mean, if that's a Southern accent, I don't know. Sounds like a Southern guy that may have been kicked in the head a few times or something. It just doesn't sound right. But I mean, Con Air is one of my favorite movies of all time for sheer ridiculous production value. Completely ridiculousness.
Landing a plane on the Vegas Strip.
Yeah. And nobody got hurt.
And nobody was injured. It was a miracle.
Yeah, absolutely. But a great movie. So it's hard for me to argue that with you.
Who are your other dads you were considering? Who are your alternates?
Well, I mean, you had Danny Tanner. You got to think about that. I really like Carl Winslow.
Yeah.
I was always a big fan of Carl Winslow. And that's really where my list kind of cuts off. I think there's a big gap for me between that first tier and then everybody else.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But that's just me.
Yeah, those are the classic. Yeah, I can tell you lean more towards the sitcom. I went more towards kind of the action hero dads. I also had Walter White on my list of favorite dads.
Oh my goodness. What a great pick, Tyler. That is a good one.
I know, right? Again, did a lot for his family.
Did a lot. Yeah. Almost got him killed, but yeah.
Well,
Yeah, everybody's got their faults. So
okay.
that brings us up to our next topic. You and I are both dads. We both have 2 kids here. And we've been in it for a few years now, right? Mine are slightly older than yours, but let's face it, we're both in the thick of it together, right?
Yes.
And you hear a lot of advice from people, especially before you have kids, like, oh, make sure you do this, do that. And it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. It's like advice overload. But are there some things that you wish that you had known before you became a dad that maybe somebody told you or you just didn't know anything about that you wish you would have known beforehand? So that's what we're going to cover on this one.
All right. I assume we'll do 2 of these as well. We'll also put these out on social media. And I think you need to go first since I got to go first on the other one. We'll let you go first for this one, Brandon.
Yes. So I have a pretty hefty list here, and I really had to think about what I wish I would have known. And this is actually something that more impacts, I guess, the younger part of the kids, right? And that is that you have to wake up every 3 hours to feed them when they are newborns up to a certain age. I remember specific times in my life where I was making a bottle of formula at 3 a.m., shaking the bottle up, and I was like, where am I? What's going on? Where am I at right now? Oh yeah, I got a bottle. Yeah, I got to feed this to somebody. Probably not me. Probably not my wife. I need to take this up to the babies. I mean, I was a walking zombie trying to do that, and we rotated like sleeping shifts to make sure that I did it one time where I got back-to-back 3-hour shifts off, and then she would do it, and then we just went back and forth. But I had no idea that was coming, and it lasted longer than I would have liked. But it was very difficult. Just didn't see that curveball coming at all.
Yeah, it is amazing. Like it almost becomes like muscle memory with those bottles that you just know how much to pour in at 3 o'clock in the morning. It is incredible, and I agree. Those sleepless nights suck. They are the worst.
Yeah, they are the worst. What about you,
All
Tyler?
right.
What do you got?
All right. So I get 2 in a row here. So
2 in a row. Yep.
I'm going to start my first one since we are primarily a sports show.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about how if I could have traveled back to tell me 5 years ago how much your sports tree will be pruned off after you have kids. Because before kids, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. The only reason to have cable TV is for sports, to watch basketball, to watch football. And I used to watch every night, whatever college basketball game was on. It didn't matter who was playing. I would watch the 7 o'clock game. Then I'd watch the 9 o'clock game. Might even stay up if Gonzaga was playing at 10, 11 o'clock. Might even stay up and watch that one. But after you have kids, you're not watching every game. I'm lucky to even watch all the Kentucky games now.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Amen, brother.
If Kentucky's got a 9 o'clock tip off or later, there's a very good chance I'm not even going to make it to stay awake for it.
Uh-huh.
And I'm definitely not watching all the other games that I used to watch before kids. So you really have to, I mean, obviously change a lot of priorities after you have kids, but you also kind of have to reprioritize what is most important in your sports watching. I mean, I used to watch all Sunday from 1 o'clock till 11 o'clock, watching every NFL football game. Now that does not happen. So you really, you have to intentionally make time to watch the particular sports or games that you really want to watch. Because let's face it, you're not getting by with watching games on TV all day long once you're a dad. The kids aren't going to allow it, and the wife is also not going to allow it either. So that was just a big, as a huge lifelong sports fan who watched every sport that was on TV at any given moment. That was an adjustment for me.
You went from watching the games to going to your Score Center app and seeing what the score is. Okay, I can go to bed now. I'll check it in the morning. Where's the highlights?
Okay. Exactly. Yes. Like, do I really want to stay up and watch this game, or should I just check the score in the morning?
Those 9 o'clock tip-offs are a bear. And then you get so angry when the game before you goes into overtime or something, and it's like, oh geez, I'm gonna lose it.
Yes.
Crazy. All right. What do you got next, Tyler?
All right. And then
what's your other one?
My second one that Tyler 5 years ago was not prepared for is the lack of personal space and privacy once you become a dad. I guess I thought that, kids would sometimes, I don't know all the time, but maybe sometimes just want to play on their own or just kind of have their own little self time. But kids don't ever want time to themselves, ever. They always need somebody to play with or to be around. They don't ever want to be alone. And that includes even when you go to the bathroom. I was not prepared to have an audience for going to the bathroom when we had kids.
Clapping for you.
And kids are obsessed. Like they will just sit and stare at you when you're on the toilet, and it is very uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't understand why the kids are so obsessed with watching this process. And then you try to close the door or lock the door, and then they're just sitting outside, knocking on the door or jiggling the handle. Why I'm like,
Daddy.
Yes. I was not prepared for that at all. And I'm still not. I mean, this still continues, especially with our 2-year-old. I did not know I would have to have a performance every time going to the bathroom.
That is amazing. And you're 100% right. 100%, man. It really hits home. Too hard. If I'm looking at my last one, Tyler, this sounds so stupid and so mundane and not important that it's something that didn't even come on my radar at all until it just hit me one day.
Okay.
And that is how hard it is to open the door, get in my car, and just go do anything. because now it's a whole operating procedure. It's like
Yep.
I'm in a military, and there's a standard operating procedure that I have to follow. Okay, I have to take my son out. Okay, I have to make sure that his car seat's clipped in. Is the seatbelt in the right place? Can I get him to get his shoes on? How long is that going to take? Why are his socks off? Go upstairs, get some socks, put those on. Your clothes don't match. Okay, now let's get your shoes on. We're going to buckle you in. I'm thirsty, Dad. Okay, let me get you a bottle of water. Would you like a snack as well? Sure, here's a snack. All right, now what else do we have to do? Oh, you need a toy in the car. You want a blanket too? Okay, now we have to walk in the store. Can I ride in the front in the basket? Sure, you can. Okay, now you're going to pull 10 things off the shelf. It's a whole operation to do anything, just to walk out the door and go anywhere. So whereas, let's say you called me and said, "Hey, Brandon, can you come over?" I say, "Yeah, I'll be over in like 15 minutes." No, that changes to an hour. Everything's a minimum of 1 hour to do anything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you call and tell me you need something, be there in an hour, man. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's as quick as I can do it.
And it's not because I don't want to be there sooner. It's just because that's what's going to happen. So it basically adds an hour onto everything that you try to do. And I just wasn't thinking about that at the time. And until you're in it one day and realize how far behind you get just doing something simple as getting in the car and leaving, doesn't really hit you.
Yeah, it is. And then not just the leaving, but then also the getting there. If you're taking them to the grocery, before kids, you pull into your parking space, you just get out and you walk inside. No, that doesn't happen anymore. You've got to get everything unbuckled. You've got to get out the stroller, or you got to get the convertible car seat out. And there's just you got to get the diaper bag. Make sure you've brought everything in with you. Yeah, everything just takes so much more time in preparation. I agree. Very, very, very good one.
Oh, thank you. I mean, there's other things, but I mean, again, we're both dads, Tyler. I wouldn't trade it for anything. For all the headaches that it can cause, it brings a lot more good things. And overall, to all the fathers that are out there, happy Father's Day. We really hope you enjoyed the show today, because it's all for you guys and gals that listen. I think we may have said Happy Mother's Day. I think we talked about Mother's Day as well. Hopefully, maybe we didn't.
But yeah, happy Father's Day. I hope you've had a good Father's Day, Brandon. You guys are up in Indianapolis, so
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hope you've got some good family time in today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been we went to the Indianapolis Children's Museum and just let the kids run around. They had a good time. So overall, a good trip.
And that's what it's all about. Having a good time, seeing your kids smile and laugh makes everything we just talked about worth it, I suppose.
Absolutely, it sure does. Tyler, this has been an interesting episode. I really enjoyed this last segment talking about Father's Day and fictional dads. Very fun. Next week, we'll get back into the flow of things with our Calipari Players Bracket as well, because we did have some votes on that did go up on social media. Again, if you want to vote in those or in the future matchups, follow us on Twitter at LexBuds, Facebook LexBuds and Pick and Roll, YouTube LexBuds, Instagram Lex. But what is our Instagram, Tyler?
Why would you ask me that? I don't know.
Just type in here in summation. Type in the word LexBuds into anything you want to find us on, and you'll find it. But it's been a fun show, and we'll be back doing it again next week. And we're all crossing our fingers, Tyler, that your orthopedic visit goes well, and let us know how that goes.
Thank you. I will definitely keep you posted. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, this was episode 59, the Queensboro Bridge edition of the Lex Buds and Pick and Roll podcast, because the Queensboro Bridge is also known as the 59th Street Bridge.
Jeez, Tyler, you never cease to amaze me. Never cease to amaze me. This is the kind of research that we do.
It is. And then a bonus question for you. Do you know what the most common street name in America is?
Main Street?
Very, very close. It's 2nd Street.
Oh.
Which you would think it would be Main Street, but some main streets are also called 1st Street. So that's kind of splits the vote.
Oh, I got it.
And so 2nd Street is the most common street name.
Yeah, very interesting. Splitting the vote. Who would have thought? Crazy, Tyler. Well, it was a fun show, and we're going to try our sign off. Even though there's a delay, we're going to try to get this together, Tyler. You ready?
Oh, boy. This is always bad.
Let's do it.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Stay classy, Kentucky.
All right.